when the Biden administration stopped this, when they stopped the Keystone Pipeline, what they ended up doing is they didn't stop the oil production. They just made it more dangerous to transport because they had to use rail. So you have to use fossil fuels to transport fossil fuels instead of just using a pipeline. But not only that, one of the other things, and the big reason why the United States was really standalone in terms of production, is due to the fact that we had under Barack Obama, he had ended new leasing for oil production on public lands. So people would come, they'd take the lease up, they'd run the derricks, they'd get oil, frack, get natural gas, all this. He ended that, and it was private lands that actually kept the United States competitive. They increased production. So when Trump was in office, he threw out that moratorium on new leasing for public lands, and the United States was so abundant in production that we actually outpaced OPEC. We actually became the biggest supplier in the world. And that's incredibly important for a number of reasons. Number one, big reason, you could sit here and talk about energy, blah, 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 security. When you are limiting the ability of countries like Russia and China to influence other nations with energy supplies, that's a good thing. You have to look at it like that. All these people who want to pretend that they're so anti-war make the stupidest choices that end up where that's the only option. You want to limit the ability of countries like Russia and China to be able to influence and manipulate other nations because with the carrot of oil and gas. So that was a smart thing to do. It's one of the reasons why I think also Trump was able to get Germany to contribute more towards NATO than Germany was willing to do. I mean, and it was just like still not even meeting what they had initially agreed to, but still it was more than we were getting. So that's significant. Number two, it's a huge economic boon for us. And I was thinking about this when I want to revisit this tweet real quick. I say this. I was looking at a State Department tweet where the State Department had actually said that, oh, yes, climate change, this is actually a real economic boon for the United States. It's not, though. It's an economic boom for nobody. Except for the people who want to redistribute wealth, because you're not creating anything new. You're not adding anything new. You're giving money to all of that. You're giving it's all of this. So bottom line, it was an economic boon for us because all the revenue that we created off of it, we were able to liberate for our own security, so we didn't have forces that hate us be able to amass, because those countries would pay China and Russia for their energy. Why don't we take over those contracts, right? That makes sense. And that's more revenue for us. And then we control that energy so they can't say, think about it. Germany is now going to be getting gas from Russia, and already they're struggling. I told you about this too. I have this let me pull this up. I had this on my notes. Because Germany's already been dealing with us. They've already been kind of going back and forth. They spent 2 decades installing renewable energy, and their electricity rates are now higher than anywhere else in Europe. France has rates that are lower than 40% because Germany, remember, they got rid of all their nuclear plants. France's rates are 40% lower than Germany's energy rates because 70% of France's energy is nuclear. And Germany kept going to wind and all this other stuff. Here's the thing. Wind is so unreliable that when you use wind power, it actually requires gas or nuclear to be available to pick up the slack when wind fails to produce. And here's the other thing. It is most available wind in spring and fall. And that, ironically, is when demand is at its lowest. This all comes into play. And one of the reasons now you have OPEC, now we've given, because the Biden administration comes in, they stop those leases, new leases, and they add to the existing regulation pile for current leasing as they fill out that contract for public lands. They wanted to add more regulations for private land energy production. They allow Russia to get a toehold in Europe, and now Germany's already dealing with, because they're having issues with Russia now already over this energy providing energy. So, and then of course now because they're restricting the United States' production of oil and gas, now OPEC gets to take the lead again. And now when when energy prices are increasing, gas is increasing, and we need more in the world supply, OPEC is giving everybody the finger. They could add to the world supply if they wanted to, but they don't want to. Because we have given them control. This administration gave OPEC control. That's the stupidest thing. I've never seen such a self-sabotage ever. And then Jennifer Granholm asks and laughs about it. And then she's like, well, OPEC needs to do more. Or maybe, the OPEC didn't need to do a damn thing. The United States did it. We were leading. We were beating them. Moronic.